Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, October 11th edition of Just Parlays. I'm Chris King, your host of this show. As always, here to talk you through the next, 45 minutes, an hour, however long it takes, breaking down what happened last night, what's going to happen tonight, and to give you the best bets out there to try and put some money in your pocket. Of course, the NHL starts tonight in earnest because, we had those two games in Prague. But tonight there's actually more than two teams on the ice. Sure, there's only four, but four is bigger than two. Of course, tomorrow night we'll have a much more robust schedule of hockey. There'll be 6 games, and then Thursday is a busy night with 10 games on the ice. So good to have hockey back. It seems like it was an eternity ago. It's actually only been about 3.5 months, which is strange when you think about it. But it was late June when the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We got Monday Night Football to talk about. Of course, that game had its twists and turns and interesting calls both by the officials and by the coaching staff of both teams. We'll get to that. We'll talk about the baseball playoffs, which are the divisional round is now underway in earnest. In case you're just tuning in, you didn't realize that the first game was, of course, scheduled for a 1:07 p.m. start, because what better way to market baseball to kids than by having the first playoff game of the divisional round start at 1 in the afternoon when they're in school? It's the Phillies ahead 3-1 in the top of the third against the Braves. Ranger Suarez got the start for Philadelphia. Max Fried getting the start for Atlanta. On the plus side, Fried's thrown a lot of strikes, 32 out of his first 40 pitches. On the bad side, he's given up 6 hits and 3 runs. Granted, only 2 of them were earned, but the third one you could charge to Fried anyway because he committed a throwing error. Alec Boehm with a 2-run single for the Phillies in the first. I'm sorry, he had an RBI single in the first, and they had a sacrifice fly here in the third. Nick Castellanos also driving in a run for the Phillies. The lone run for the Braves so far, a solo homer by Travis d'Arnaud, who I'm sure everybody went out and put a bet down on him going deep in the first game of the postseason. Coming up later on this afternoon, we've got the 3:30. Is it 3:37? I believe his first pitch. The Mariners and the Astros. That'll be Logan Gilbert going against Justin Verlander. Then this evening at 7:37, the run support king of Major League Baseball, Cal Quantrill, gets the call for the Guardians against Garrett Cole, a guy that Reichel, among others, would say he didn't want to see starting game 1 of this series. He thought that he'd rather see Nestor Cortez. I wonder if Cole gets shelved. There's reports saying that, will he be back next year should he struggle in the postseason? It seems a little premature, but hey, you never know when there's a Steinbrenner in charge of the organization. By the way, the Phillies have now extended that margin to 4-1 in the third inning. This coming off a RBI single by Gene Segura, the hero of Game 1 of the wild card round against the Cardinals when they scored 6 in the 9th. And the final game on the docket for baseball tonight will come at 9:37 from Dodger Stadium, where the 111-win Dodgers take on their closest competitor in the National League West, if you want to call it that, the Padres, who won 89 games in the regular season to finish 22 games off the pace. The Padres did get past the Mets in the wild card round, much to the chagrin of Tim Earl. It's going to be Mike Clevenger, who I don't think anybody really wants to see starting a playoff game to open a series against Julio Urias, who finished 17 wins and a 216 run average. Urias was very good against the Padres in the regular season, going 3-0 in 4 starts. AJ said his Chris Jones sack didn't work out too good. Well, I mean, he almost had it, but that goes back to the officials with some questionable calls. The pendulum has swung too far to the side of protecting quarterbacks when Troy Aikman and Warren Moon are both critical about what's going on. I mean, we saw it Sunday with Tom Brady on the sack by Grady Jarrett that basically secured the win for Tampa Bay. We saw it yesterday. Buddy says Steen doesn't deserve ribs. You're probably right. He keeps talking about going on a diet and eating tofu and a bunch of other random crap anyway. So you're better off not sending him ribs anyway, buddy. But we saw it last night with Chris Jones. It's funny how you call roughing the passer when the guy that has the ball is a defensive tackle. But we saw that. I think the other questionable call in that game came later when Malcolm Kuntz was called for defensive holding on a field goal attempt, which is, I think, the first time that I've seen that when you're on the outside and you get called for defensive holding, 8 yards away from the line of scrimmage. That was a questionable call, to say the least. Unfortunately, I didn't also understand, the Raiders going for 2 on that last touchdown. I get the fact that, if you score, you'll have the lead, but does it really matter? Because if you're up 31-30 or the game's 30-30, you can lose on a field goal anyway. And I didn't understand McDaniel's rationale there. I also didn't understand, and I said this on Twitter last night as well, on that 4th and 3 when the Chiefs punted the ball back to the Raiders, if that's Brandon Staley of the Chargers, he's going for it. It could be 4th and 3 on his own 20, and he doesn't care. I was surprised that Reed punted the ball there. I get that you don't want to give up the short field, but, I mean, your defense had stopped the Raiders most of the night. I mean, Vegas scored on 6 of their 9 possessions. So I didn't really get the rationale there. I mean, it worked out for them. There was the questionable call. Did Adams bobble the ball going out of bounds on that 3rd down play? And then, of course, he ran into Hunter Renfrow on 4th down that led to the turnover on downs. DE talking about he created his own shot in the dark and he's getting kicked in the ass by the Braves already. That's a problem with the Braves. You have to wonder, did they use up all their momentum from June on trying to come back and overtake the Mets? Are they going to come out flat? And the problem with these short series are, if you go down 1-0, A, you've already lost home field advantage. B, you've got to win 3 out of the next 4 to win the series. And, that's not exactly the easiest thing to do. I mean, I get the Phillies have issues themselves. David Robertson hurt himself celebrating, so he's not on the NLDS roster. Of all the ways to get hurt, you strain your calf celebrating that you got out of the wild card round. Ranks up there with the stupid injuries that we've seen Zach Plesac have with the Guardians in the last couple of years, punching the mound and breaking his hand. Then he broke his finger or something, aggressively ripping his shirt off. So it'll be interesting to see how those teams respond. Of course, the Yankees have their own issues. Aroldis Chapman not on the roster because he didn't come to a workout because he wanted to make sure he was going to be on the postseason roster and they wouldn't guarantee it, so he decided to stay home. I think it's safe to say that you can close the second chapter of Aroldis Chapman in the Bronx at this point. DJ LeMahieu also not on the division roster for the Yankees. They will have Matt Carpenter back, but, what kind of shape is he going to be in? He broke his foot in August. He hasn't played since then. How will they respond, or how will he respond? And, the Yankees also don't have Scott Efros. They left him off the roster because apparently he's going to need Tommy John surgery. that's a big blow to that bullpen for certain. And the Braves, they put Spencer Strider back or on the playoff roster. He hasn't pitched since mid-September. He had that oblique injury. It could be good. The question is, will he be the same guy we saw most of the year, or is he going to be a bit tentative to make sure he doesn't re-aggravate that injury, kind of like we saw Max Scherzer do earlier in the year? The Astros, they left off veteran relievers Will Smith, not that Will Smith, or the other Will Smith that catches for the Dodgers. The guy that used to pitch for the Braves that they got in the trade for Jake Odorizzi. What a stupid trade that was. And they also left Phil Maton off the ALDS roster. They're going to go with the rookies. Hunter Brown, who looked really good after he got called up late in the season. And David Hensley get the call. Of course, Maton had surgery, so I'm not surprised he's not on there. A little bit surprised that Smith isn't, since he has postseason experience. Andrew talking about how he had broccoli and cucumber slices for lunch. Well, I can pretty much guess, Andrew, that if you go to Buddy's restaurant, he's not going to serve broccoli and cucumber slices. And to quote the infamous B.A. Baracus, where's the meat? The sandwich is full of weeds. And that's the way sandwiches should be. They should be full of meat. DE says the Yankees don't need Chapman anyway because he's subject to blow the game. Yeah, that's true. But the problem is, so is Clay Holmes. He started off good, and then he went right down the toilet in the second half of the season. Had the phantom injury that put him on the IL to help him try to get back in gear, but didn't necessarily pan out. It'll be interesting to see what the Yankees do in late game situations, should there be a close game. Because, in the postseason, we don't see starters necessarily go 6 and 7 innings all that often. Bieber and McClanahan were probably the exception to the rule in game one of that series between the Rays and the Guardians. But that's because nobody scored any runs. I mean, come on, we had 4 runs in 2 games in that series. And they played 24 innings. You look at some of the matchups here, like I said, it's Quantrill and Cole, it's Clevenger and Arias, it's Gilbert and Verlander. If you had to guess who was going to be around, come the 6th or 7th inning, you'd probably say Verlander would probably be the top option. But who knows? And then, tomorrow it'll just be the National League Game 2s. Currently projected to be Zach Wheeler starting for the Phillies against Kyle Wright. And Yu Darvish gets to return to the City of Angels, his former teammates, and face Clayton Kershaw, another guy who pitched well against San Diego this season. But then again, the whole Dodgers team was good against the Padres. They won 14 of the 19 meetings, outscored them. I think it was 109 to 47 or 104 to 49. It was something like that. I had the slide yesterday for it. And then Thursday, we'll see game 2s of the AL series. Currently, Luis Castillo lined up to go against Framber Valdez. Shane Bieber lined up to go against Nestor Cortez. So some good pitching matchups coming up. We'll keep an eye on what's going on with the Braves and the Phillies while we're here on the show. And we'll talk about some of the other games. James talking about how does the Scott get some riv? Buddy already said no because he said the Chiefs should have lost that game, and he's probably right. I mean, let's face it. I will be the first to admit that I was wrong because I thought that the Chiefs would be able to bottle up Jacobs on the ground. Instead, he averaged better than 7 yards a carry. That was an impressive run game, and it makes you wonder, did the Raiders figure out something about Kansas City's defense that can get exploited down the line, or was this a one-off? I mean, I'll be the first to admit Buffalo is not inclined to sit there and try and run power and stuff like that because they want to throw the ball all over the place, and they're going to challenge Kansas City secondary. But it's going to be an interesting game. A lot of good games on the schedule next week. The Sunday night game is the Cowboys and the Eagles. Will Dak Prescott play? Will Dak Prescott not play? Who knows? Then, like I said, you've got the Bills and the Chiefs. Some people are excited about the Jets and the Packers for reasons unbeknownst to me because, let's face it, the Packers have looked lousy, and the Jets, they've won 2 in a row, but still, they're the Jets. What other exciting games we got on the slate for this week? Oh, you get the rematch of Jacksonville and Indianapolis. I know everybody's looking forward to that game. And, of course, the 2 primetime games, Dallas, Philadelphia will be good, but the Thursday night game, Amazon's going to be wondering, we paid a bunch of money for this. You got the Colts and Broncos last week, and that game was terrible. Now you get the Commanders and the Bears, where the first team to 10 points could probably win the game. And then on Monday night, really, we've got to see Russell Wilson in primetime again. The Broncos going to face the Chargers in an AFC West battle. How many times have we seen the Broncos in primetime already? We saw them on Monday night in week 1. Let's see. What else did we see them in primetime? We saw them on Thursday night last week. Didn't they have a Sunday night game already? Yeah, they had the Sunday night game against San Francisco. We're looking – and wait, no, the Raiders game was a Sunday afternoon. That's right. That was 4 o'clock. This is the 4th time in 6 weeks that we have to watch Russell Wilson and the absolutely putrid Denver Broncos offense in primetime. Who in the world came up with this schedule? But don't send him those ribs. He's not going to eat them. He's just going to, I'll put them in the freezer and then I'll end up going to the dog or something because, like I said, he likes to eat tofu and vegetables. Who the hell wants to do that? AJ says, are the Jags frauds? Well, there's 2 ways you can look at that. You can look at it as Trevor Lawrence has played 2 absolutely horrible games the last 2 weeks. He turned the ball over 5 times against the Eagles. He looked terrible against Houston. Come on, they scored 6 points. But then you have to look at the fact that, can you call a 2-3 team a fraud? Sure, they blew out the Colts, but the Colts haven't looked good all season. They beat the Chargers. The Chargers played without Keenan Allen. They played without some guys on defense. Maybe reality set in. We'll see what happens this week. If they lose to Indianapolis and drop to 2-4, oh, sweet Jesus. The Broncos are going to be in another nationally televised game in a couple weeks because they play Jacksonville in London. That's another reason why I don't set my alarm for 9:30 on Sundays because all these games are games I don't necessarily want to watch. If they lose to Indianapolis and drop to 2-4, then you can probably say they're a fraud. Their defense is good. I won't take anything away from what they've done on that side of the ball. Devin Lloyd looks like the real deal as a first-round draft pick. I think that the Jaguars got a good one there. He's got 49 tackles and 2 picks, 6 pass defenses in 5 games as a rookie. He's looked really good for them. The offense, I don't know. They spent a ton of money getting guys. James Robinson is back. Etienne has looked okay. They got some receivers that they think are good. I wouldn't have paid as much money as they did for Christian Kirk, but when you're a bad team, you have to pay that premium to get talent. Zay Jones is still there. Didn't like him when he was in Buffalo. I thought he was going to be better than he was. Marvin Jones is probably at the tail end of his career. It's probably too early to call them frauds. Let's see here. Best bet on the board for baseball. No, I'm not gonna say that it's just a premium, James. No, obviously when I do premiums, I think if I do single games, I do like 3 to 5 a day. If I do parlays, there's like 47 of them. And if you look in the show box, speaking of the premiums, if you were looking at the show box and you decide to go and purchase it, there's a code in there for you guys. You can save 60% off the actual price. So, I mean, that's a good deal for you guys when you get right down to it. Also, make sure you check out the Winners and Winers website and the YouTube channels for free picks all day. And, of course, hit the like button and subscribe to hit the bell so you never miss the show. Like we always say, if you haven't lived under a rock, we're on at 2 Eastern, Monday to Friday. Eder says, runners on the corners for Atlanta with 2 outs. They're still down 4-1. Best bet on the board for baseball, I'm probably going to say it's probably going to be Houston. I like Houston on the run line. I think, Seattle played well against Toronto, but Verlander is a different animal than Gausman and Manoah. Verlander has pitched well against Seattle in his career. Let me just pull up his numbers so I don't misquote myself. I like the Astros on the run line just because I know the money line is a little bit prohibitive. I think it was 222 when I did my card this morning. But I think Houston, they're rested. They're at home. They play well there. Verlander in his career, 21-10, a 3.09 ERA and 37 starts, 258 strikeouts over 245 innings against the Mariners. If you just want to go to this season against Seattle, Verlander went. Where is it? Verlander made 6 starts, 5-1, a 234 earned run average, 42 1/3 innings, 11 runs, 6 walks, 43 strikeouts, a .921 whip. Hard to believe that Verlander got almost a third of his wins in the season against the Mariners. And against teams above 500, he was 9-3 with an ERA of 2.3 and 15 starts. An 0.894 whip, 13 walks, 89 strikeouts over 94 innings. I'm concerned about Seattle's bullpen. I'm concerned about what Gilbert can give you considering he's still a young pitcher. And I'm concerned about the Mariners, with their struggles against Verlander. Baseball is its own entity. There are a lot of moving parts, As Warren Spahn used to say, baseball or momentum is only as good as the next day's starting pitcher. And, that's an accurate statement. But it's going to be interesting to see how these series play out. I like the Dodgers tonight too. I think that I don't trust Clevenger at all, but that's just me. And of course, d'Arnaud struck out chasing a pitch out of the zone to end the inning, so the Braves leave the bases loaded. Suarez, he's not going to be long for this game. He's thrown 75 pitches in 3 innings. He's only given up a run on 3 hits, but he's walked 4, struck out 5. But I try to stretch him to get to 5, but it's going to be questionable. Quick look at the college football schedule. I know that we were talking about that a bit yesterday with all the ranked games this weekend. Of course, everyone really excited about tomorrow's Sun Belt matchup between Louisiana and Marshall up in West Virginia. Marshall coming off a win over Gardner-Webb. Louisiana lost to South Alabama. We'll talk about that game more tomorrow as well. Good seats still available if you're in the Huntington, West Virginia area, and you want to go to that contest. Both teams looking for their first win in the Sun Belt this season. Marshall's 0-1. They're 3-2 overall. Louisiana is 0-2 in the conference. They're 2-3 overall. And you look at the way things have gone. Louisiana started off the year 2-0. They've gone on to lose to, of all teams, you lost to UL Monroe. You lost to Rice. And you lost to South Alabama in a game where you tied the score with 42 seconds left and somehow let South Alabama get 8 plays off in 42 seconds to go 49 yards to set up the winning field goal. This is not Billy Napier's team. Obviously Napier took the job at Florida at the end of last season, so it's Michael DeSormo. He was Napier's assistant. Team's not the same. And it's got to be disappointing for fans of the Raging Cajuns, for certain. Wow, you took Suarez at over 3 Ks? AJ's, I think I saw it last night at, I think it was 4.5. Let me check my sheet because I end up saving all the stuff when I go through and do my parlay. They put everything in a thing. Yeah, I had it at over 4.5, was at plus 124 last night. So even that one has gone through already. So that's a plus. I'm not going to complain about that. Anything you guys want to talk about before we get into the stuff for tonight? Anything leading up for the next couple of days? I know everybody wants to talk about Washington and Chicago, right? Everybody wants to talk about Thursday night. First one to 7 wins. I know James was talking about the college football schedule is tricky, and it will be. I mean, once you get into conference play, things get a little bit murkier because you don't know what to expect from anybody. And then you've got a lot of good ranked games here. You got Penn State, Michigan, like I said yesterday. You got Alabama, Tennessee. You got Oklahoma State, TCU. You got NC State, Syracuse, USC, Utah, Mississippi State, Kentucky. All those games featuring 2 ranked teams. So you got almost half the top 25 playing each other. I think it's going to be interesting when you look at Kansas. How do they bounce back? They face Oklahoma this week. Dylan Gabriel, maybe he'll be out of the concussion protocol. Maybe he won't. Kansas, let's see what happens with Jalen Daniels. Though, Jason Bean was pretty good last week in relief. Let me just see here. The other day, Lance Leopold said the severity of Daniels is doubtful to play Saturday, according to Leopold. That was earlier this afternoon. He said he did not practice or participate in practice today, so he is doubtful for tomorrow, or for Saturday, I should say. So Jason Bean would get the start, potentially. And he's not necessarily inexperienced. He started 10 games last year for Kansas. Kansas, despite being ranked and against an Oklahoma team that has lost 3 straight games, including getting smashed in the Red River rivalry last week by Texas, is an 8-point underdog. So that's something to take into consideration. Brent Venables on the other side is confident that Dylan Gabriel will return this week for Oklahoma. He said he was a full go at practice, but the final verdict on his return will be made Thursday. So we'll keep an eye out on that in the next couple of days. But until Oklahoma can figure out how to play defense, it might not matter. But that's one game we'll definitely keep an eye on. Yeah, I like the Dodgers too. Urias, like I said, he pitched very well this season against San Diego. Clevenger's not great, and that's probably an understatement. I mean, I guess, he's got good hair for a hairband. That doesn't mean that you're a good pitcher. Let me just pull up Urias' number against the Padres. I know he was 3-0. His ERA, I think, was 1.5. 24 innings, gave 4 runs on 15 hits. And he had control issues. I'll give him that. He walked 10 in 24 innings, struck out 18. But I think a lot of those control issues he worked out in the second half of the season because you look at the splits for him. In the first half, he walked 22, struck out 94. Second half, walked 19, struck out 72, but his ERA went from 2.89 to 1.26 in the second half of the season. Opposing hitters hit just 179 off him after the All-Star break. And from July through the end of the season, he went 11-1. Kind of hard to argue with that. And let's face it, the Padres have had major issues with the Dodgers. Like I said, they lost 14 of 19 meetings in the regular season. Clevenger in his career against the Dodgers, not good. Okay, if you're scoring at home, he's made, let me pull it up here. I wrote about it yesterday. He's made 3 career starts against the Dodgers and gone 0-2 with a 969 earned run average, a 1.539 whip. 14 runs on 16 hits, 4 walks and 11 strikeouts in 13 innings at Dodger Stadium. And I get it's a small sample size. He's worse. 0-2, 11.25 earned run average. 10 runs, 11 hits, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, 2 hit batters, a 175 whip in 8 innings. Those aren't the kind of numbers you want to see when you're facing a team in the playoffs. So now that we've covered all that good stuff, we can get to the high point of the day, which, of course, is all of the parlays. We'll start with 2 for the money. And like I said, we've got hockey back tonight, and that's a big thing for sure. And we're going to start with a hockey game, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Rangers under 5.5 goals on the scoreboard at -108. Let's face it, these teams met in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Tampa Bay ended up winning to go on to the Stanley Cup Finals. But you've got Andrei Vasilevsky on one side. You've got Igor Shesterkin, the reigning Vezina winner, on the other. Goaltenders seem to get the upper hand on shooters early on in the season. And I don't think we're going to see a high-scoring game here. This could be a 2-1, 3-1 type of game. Might get to 3-2. But I don't see it going over 5 because, let's face it, you've got 2 all-world goaltenders here. Vasilevsky, of course, has a couple Stanley Cup rings to his credit. And Shesterkin in the regular season is 3-0 with a 1.30 goals against Tampa Bay. I know he didn't win in the playoffs, but that was more a battle of attrition and experience that benefited Tampa Bay. You also have to wonder how much is this, this is what, the third straight year that Tampa Bay played in the Stanley Cup Finals. How much of a toll is that constant grind going to take on Tampa Bay? We see them usually coast in the early part of the season, then turn it on usually after the new year, roll into the playoffs, and then play their best hockey. But in the early part of the season, they have their issues, and I think that's going to be the case here tonight against the Rangers. We talked about the Astros just moments ago. I think Verlander he definitely has the experience factor on Gilbert. The Astros are obviously fresh. They haven't played in a week. Seattle had to battle back in that game Saturday. And, while they have the momentum from that, they also have to realize the toll that it took on their pitching staff because they had to use a whole bunch of guys because Robbie Ray was not good, to say the least. Vegas and the Kings, same token as the Rangers and the Lightning. I don't expect this to be necessarily a high-scoring game. The one thing that I'm concerned about when it comes to Vegas, who's going to be in net for them? Because, Robin Leonard's done for the year. He had hip surgery. So it's going to be a combination of Logan Thompson, Laurent Brissot, and Aiden Hill. Those guys have combined for, as many playoff wins. Now, let me double check on Brissot because he might actually have a couple. He's been around for a while. Playoffs. Nope. Okay. He's only played one playoff game, and it was in relief. These guys have as many playoff wins as you. To be concerned for the long term for the Sharks, will they try and go out and get a goaltender? Will they try to ride with what they have? Are they going to have the cap space to go out and do anything? Because they've got all those guys that are highly priced. That's why they had to deal Max Pacioretty off for basically a bag of pucks and a broken stick in the offseason. Their loss is Carolina's gain, basically. The Dodgers and the Astros are rested. They didn't play in the wild card rounds. Neither the Yankees or the Braves, and of course that hasn't worked out for Atlanta. But Fried is now gone after 3 1/3. The Phillies have runners on second and third with one out. Jesse Chavez, wearing his Rick Vaughn glasses, coming out in relief for the Phillies in that one. A little surprising. I expected better from Atlanta. But like I said, now I have to wonder, did they use all their momentum trying to catch the Mets to get the bye? And how do they respond from here? I mean, if Philadelphia tallies either one of these guys and goes up 3 or 4 or 5 runs, what can Atlanta do the rest of this game? Because obviously you don't want to go down 1-0 in your own building. But we'll have to see what happens. And Mookie Betts over 1.5 total bases. Normally you see me put these guys in the shot in the dark, but Betts in his career against Clevenger, 7 of 14. He's got a double, a triple. He's driven in 4 runs. When you hit 500 against somebody, that's good enough for me to put you up here. He's going to be at the top of the lineup, so he's going to get 4 or 5 at bats. You have to think that he can make the most of those opportunities. And Betts isn't just he's not a punch and Judy hitter. He can put some pop into the ball. I mean, if you look at his numbers in the regular season, Betts hit 35 home runs this season. Also cracked 40 doubles and 3 triples. So you might not even need 2 hits to get here. And at plus money, you can't really go wrong with that. So now we can move on to the 4 for the show. Going to start with the 2 hockey games. We just talked a bit about the Rangers and the Lightning. Shesterkin has been very good. He's also very good at home. And the Rangers, this is basically a revenge game for them. You lose in the conference finals. You fall 2 games short of going to the Stanley Cup finals. I don't think they would have won that game or won the finals necessarily. But Shesterkin had a league-leading 44.9 goals saved above average. So he saved basically 45 goals that the average goaltender would have allowed last season. Led the league in save percentage, 935. Led the league in goals against, 207. He had 6 shutouts. Finished 3rd in the Hart voting, which is saying something because it's not very often you see goaltenders that high up the list. He finished behind Connor McDavid, of course, and Austin Matthews. And you pretty much knew Matthews was going to win last year. It's hard to argue with a guy who scores 60 goals because that's been such a rare feat in recent years. I think Shesterkin can shut down Tampa Bay. And I think the Rangers should win. They're playing at home. Same token, the Kings are at home. I don't trust Vegas' goaltending. Jonathan Quick, he only seems like he's 72. He's really only 62. No, he's 36. But the guy gets the job done in net. He was 23, 13, and 9 last season. A 259 goals against, 910 save percentage. And he carried the Kings to 7 games against Edmonton before they lost in Game 7. And that wasn't necessarily his fault because the game was a 2-0 game. His team didn't score. I'll take a guy like Quick, who may be in the twilight of his career, but it's been a good one, over a trio of goaltenders who don't have as many wins in their careers. Let me see. Let me double check before I say this. Let's see. Logan Thompson in his career has a total of 10 wins. Okay. Brissett has 42, so that's 52 wins. And Aiden Hill has, I think he's like 28 and 32 or some crap. 29 and 32. Okay, so that's 81 wins. By comparison, Quick has 56 shutouts by himself. He's won 359 games in his career. The 3 goalies for the Knights have 81. Talk about a difference there. Andrew said he grabbed the Braves at plus 2.5 at plus 124. They've got the bats. The question is, can they do anything? And a big strike out there by Chavez as he gets Real Muto on a 3-2 pitch for the second out of the inning. They intentionally walk Harper to load the bases. It's going to bring up Castellanos. And, it was a down year for Castellanos when you get right down to it. You remember what a doubles machine he was a couple of years ago when he came over to Chicago from Detroit at the trade deadline. And then he went to Cincinnati. And last year in Cincinnati, he had 38 doubles, 34 homers, drove in 100. This year, only 27 doubles and only 13 home runs. You have to wonder, did Castellanos hit a wall when he turned 30? His average dropped from 309 to 263. He walked less. He struck out more. His slugging dropped 187 points. His on-base percentage dropped 57. His OPS dropped 245 points. His batting average was down 46 points. If he can turn it around in the playoffs, that'd be a big boost for the Phillies. The question is, can he? Buddy said he's trying to get the same bet, but he's got to wait until between innings. While we wait to see what Castellanos does, I'm going to go with Urias over 4.5 strikeouts. The Padres, they struck out a fair amount in that series against the Mets. And and that's not good when Andrew says, "Oh shit." I'm guessing that usually doesn't end well for somebody. It's now 6-1 as Castellanos dumps one in the left. So maybe Buddy can get plus 4.5. But 6-1 Philadelphia now in the 4th inning. On the plus side, that almost puts the game over the total because I think it was at 7.5. But definitely a disappointing outing for Max Fried. You can close the book on him now. 3 1/3, 6 runs, 4 earned, 8 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 61 pitches, 45 strikes. He also committed a throwing error. But for the Phillies to come out and have 9 hits in the first 3 2/3 innings, they're sending a message that they're not going to be, overlooked here. Castellanos has 3 hits in the game. He's 3 for 3, 2 singles and a double. Chavez in front of Bohm, 0-2 now, trying to get out of the inning without any further damage. That might be shutting the barn door after the cows went out. it's going to be an uphill climb for Atlanta the rest of the way. They're going to have to find a way maybe get to that Philadelphia bullpen because they've done a good job of working counts on Suarez. Like I said, 4 walks they've drawn, and they've had 3 hits, but they're not capitalizing on those situations. You take a quick look, Atlanta's 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. They've left 5 guys on in the first 3 frames. It's not going to get it done. Dansby Swanson fanned both times he's been to the plate already in this game. It's now plus 3.5 or plus 3.5 runs at plus 138. Okay, so not quite as good because at plus 2.5 you just needed them to catch up 1 run. At plus 3.5 you get or plus 4.5 at 130. Okay. Well, now the question is, what will it be? Well, never mind. Bohm went down swinging at a pitch right down the middle. Hope kick himself for missing that one. Garrett Cole, I look to stay under 6.5 strikeouts. I know everybody talks about how he struck a bunch of guys out in the month of September. He also gave a lot of home runs in the month of September, and Cleveland was the league's hardest team to strike out. I get that Cole has good stuff. I also have seen Cole get lit up on a repeated basis at times. He gave 9 homers in his last 5 starts. And he's playing at home at Yankee Stadium where the dimensions are favorable for hitters. So I look for him to fall under that total. He might get to 5. He might get to 6. But I don't think he gets to 7 or beyond. Just a point of concern there. And that will take us to the shot in the dark. Always fun stuff on here. Ty France. If you want one guy that's hit Verlander, he's 7 of 20 in his career against Verlander. Over 1.5 total bases, plus 185. I mean, you could have said, what about Carlos Santana? Well, you'd be better off getting Carlos Santana, the guitar player, than Carlos Santana, the designated hitter / strikeout guy. Sure, he's got some numbers against Verlander, if you want to be technical about it. He's 19 for 84, so a 226 average. If you wanted to chase a home run prop, I would chase one with Santana. He's homered 9 times off Verlander and doubled 5 times. So he's got 14 of his 19 hits are for extra bases against Verlander. He's also struck out 19 times. One guy you don't want to back against Verlander, Eugenio Suarez. He's 2 for 20 in his career. He does have a home run. He's also struck out 13 times in those 20 at-bats. So stay away from Suarez. Like I said, if you wanted to do a home run prop, you could chase Santana. Braves Phillies over 11.5. I'm guessing that's the live number. It's hard to say because you don't know what to make of this Phillies bullpen. Will they pitch like they did against St. Louis, or will they pitch like they did all season? And by the same token, what do we expect out of the Braves bullpen? Money line is plus 570 now. I can see that. I mean, we've seen stranger things happen. Look at what happened Saturday with Seattle. What was the money line in that game? Like 35-1, something like that? So, I mean, these things could happen. Plus 630, okay. Taking a look here also at guys that could do some damage tonight. Josh Donaldson, he's probably the best hitting guy against Quantrill from his time with the Twins. 7 of 17 in his career, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. So a 412 batting average. You could take Harrison Bader if you wanted to, but I don't know if he'll be in the lineup. He's 3 for 3 with a double and a homer against Quantrill in his career. Higashioka is 2 for 2, but guys like Judge is 0 for 5. Stanton is 0 for 5. Torres is 0 for 2. And Anthony Rizzo is 2 for 9 against Quantrill in his career. So, guys to watch out for there. James, basically, it's in this case, you're not going to see Philadelphia toning it down. And you're not going to see Atlanta punting because the last thing you want to do in a short series is go down if you can help it. Atlanta's not, unless the score gets to something like, 14-1 or something like that, where the game's out of reach. You're going to see these guys, the normal guys, in the mix, because to quote Apollo Creed in Rocky III, there is no tomorrow, because if you are now 1-0 and you're staring a 2-0 deficit in the face tomorrow, and if you go down 2-0, your next loss send you to the golf course. So they're gonna bust their asses to try to stay in the game. Arcia just drew a walk, so of course there's another free pass from Suarez. He's now up to 82 pitches. If I'm Rob Thompson, I got somebody warming up in the bullpen right now, because the last thing you want to do is let the bottom of the order here, with Harris the 8-hitter and then Grossman the 9-hitter, have guys on base to set the table for Acuna and Swanson and Riley to get back in this game. We got Jose Ramirez. Why not? He's the best guy that Cleveland's got in their lineup. We saw him homer off McClanahan the other day. He's hit well against Cole. I can see him go over 1.5 total bases, especially playing in Cleveland or in New York, where, like I said, that right field wall. Chris Woodward used to call it a little league park because it's only like 328 down the line. Why not? Manny Machado, he's had good success against Urias in his career. Let me pull up the numbers real quick. Where is he? There he is. Against Urias, Machado was 10 for 27, so a 370 batting average. 4 home runs. So you got that going for him. Guys to stay away from, Will Myers. He's 3 for 25 against Urias in his career. Soto, 1 for 18. While the hit was a home run, when you're batting 0-56 against a guy, I don't trust you to go over the total base prop. Trent Grisham, who had that big series against the Mets, 0 for 7. Ha-Sung Kim, 0 for 9. Profar, 2 for 16. Jake Cronenworth, 2 of 17 against Urias in his career. So Machado is the safe bet. Oh, no problem, James. That's what we're here for. I actually don't have the Yankees. I don't trust Garrett Cole. I don't trust the Yankees bullpen. Of course, that could blow up in my face. I just know that Cleveland scores a ton of runs when Quantrill pitches. We talked about it all regular season long. They scored at least 5 runs in 19 of his 30 starts, or 31 starts on the year. I'm going to take Cleveland on the money line at plus 180. If you take the plus 1.5 runs, I think it's minus 130 or so. If you take them to win by more than 1.5 runs, as you see, it's plus 290. But I just can't trust Cole because he's given up so many home runs of late. Like I said, 9 in his last 5 starts, spanning, I think, 29 and a third innings. Now, could Cole turn in a dazzling performance where he strikes out 12 and gives up 1 run in 7 innings? Sure. Is he just as prone to implode? Yes. So I'll take the risk with Quantrill being the more consistent pitcher. Only 1 strikeout prop today, too, and that's Verlander over 6.5 strikeouts. We talked about his numbers against the Mariners this season. In his 6 outings, 5-1, struck out better than a hitter an inning. I'll take a flyer on 6.5. I think he can get to 7 or 8 in that contest. Going with a couple guys to actually get a point tonight. I'm going to take Jack Eichel. Everybody thought he was going to be the savior in Vegas when Buffalo traded him. He missed about half the season. We'll look for him to get on the score sheet tonight against the Kings. Astros under, Dodgers -1.5. I like the Dodgers on the run line, Gio. The Astros under, let me see what the total is on that one because I haven't looked at it since early this afternoon. Is it still 7 or did they move it down? Okay, they moved it where it looks like it's 7 at most books. Okay, now it's back to 6.5. If it's at 7, if you can get it at 7, or if you wanted to tease it to 7.5 or whatever, I like the under. If it's 6.5, then it's a little iffy because you never know what these bullpens will do. But I definitely like the Dodgers. I do like the Lightning Rangers under for sure because, like we said, 2 great goaltenders in that matchup. Kevin Fiala, he came over from Minnesota in a trade as a free agent in the offseason, had 85 points in 82 games last year. He's going to be slotted probably in there with Anze Kopitar. Wouldn't surprise me if he got on the score sheet. And then Alex Killorn and Artemi Panarin over 2.5 shots. Panarin, he's more of a facilitator, but he can score. And Killorn, he's one of those second, third line guys that's capable of doing damage too. And plus, you're getting plus money on all these. Now, just look at that number there. Now, I'm not saying run out there and bet $100 on all 10 of these, but you can pick and choose the ones you want, and that's what we always talk about. Jim used to tell you that this is like a Chinese menu. You take color from column A, you take color from column B, and you go from there. But if all 10 of them panned out, and we had that happen before, $1.6 million. And if Cleveland were to cover the run line, and all the other ones hit, almost $2.25 million. That's pizza money. That almost covers my pizza bill most times. But that will do it for the Tuesday edition. Good to have hockey back on the ice. And, of course, like I said, next week we'll have the NBA. And just think about it, guys. We are less than a month away from the start of college basketball season. As always, make sure you hit the like button. Feel free to drop comments on the YouTube video of the show. You can reach me on Twitter. And like I said, if you want to do the premiums, the link in the show or the code in the show box will save you 60% off. It'll show the bosses that people actually watch the show and are interested and keep me from being like PBS trying to beg people to keep us on the air. We don't give out free tote bags. We just try to give out winners because that's the point, isn't it? For myself, for the Winners and Winers Sports Network, for Just Parlays, I'm Chris King. We'll see you tomorrow. Be safe.